Hello, Grissom Choir. This is Level 1.2 Music Theory Review. The first concept in 1.2 is learning the lines and spaces of the bass clef. So the bass clef, otherwise known as the F clef, we'll talk about why it's called the F clef here in a little bit. We have our 5 lines and 4 spaces. The lines and spaces, while still in the same order as the treble clef, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the bottom line and the bottom space are not the same. The bottom line of the bass clef is G. We have G, B, D, F, A. Great Big Dogs Fight Alligators. And then the spaces, the bottom space is A. A, C, E, G. All cows eat grass. So the lines, G, B, D, F, A. The spaces, A, C, E, G. Remember that the bass clef, an easy way to remember that is that the bass clef is about animals. The treble clef is about people. Every good boy does fine, and F-A-C-E, face. Remember, just like with the treble clef, you must start at the bottom line. The bottom line is G. Let's look at these first examples. That is on the third line, and if we know that the bottom line of the bass clef is G, we will have G, B, and D. So this third line is D. The second line, G, B. The third space, remembering that the bottom space is A, so we will have A, C, E. The second space will be C. The fourth line, Great Big Dogs Fight, that will be F. The bottom line is G. The top line, G, B, D, F, A. The top line is A. And the top space, A, C, E, G. The top space is G. Remember that the lines of the bass clef, G, B, D, F, A, and the spaces, A, C, E, and G. Those are the lines and spaces of the bass clef. Going on to our dotted notes and our dotted rests. So a dotted note and a dotted rest will add half of the note's value back to it. So the dot to the right-hand side of the note or the rest will add half of that note's or half of that rest's value back to it. Sometimes it does involve a fraction, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. This first example, if we negate the dot, we cross out that dot, that is just a half note. The half note will get 2 counts. But it's not just a half note. It is a dotted half note. So what is half of 2? Half of 2 is 1. So we will add that 1 back to the 2 and get 3. The dotted half note gets 3 counts. Going over to the example right below it, its bass note is a quarter note. So the quarter note will get 1 count. But it's not just a quarter note, it is a dotted quarter note. The dot will add half back to it. So what is half of 1? That is a half. So we must add 1 plus 1/2, and that will equal 1.5. Next example, if we negate that dot, we can determine that that is a whole rest. The whole rest gets 4 counts, but it's not just a whole rest, it's a dotted whole rest. That dot will add 2 back to that original 4 because half of 4 is 2. So 4 plus 2 equals 6. And going to our last example, this one involves some fractions. So if we disregard the dot for right now, we can determine that that is an eighth note. The eighth note gets half a beat. Now if we include that dot, we will have to cut in half a half. So half of a half is 1/4. But we can't just stop there. We have to think as if we are in math, and we have to find the common denominator. So the common denominator of 1/2 and 1/4 is 4. So we have to multiply that first fraction by 2 in order for the first fraction to have the common denominator. So that would be 2/4 plus 1/4, which will equal 3/4. The dotted eighth note gets 3/4 of a count. Last but not least, we have a couple of terms. So this symbol that we have right here that looks like an eagle's eye, we call that a fermata. And then a fermata means that we hold as long as the conductor wants. Caesura, which looks like two parallel lines next to each other. A caesura is a grand pause. All sound stops. The floating comma in the air is our breath mark, which tells us when and where to breathe. The repeat sign is a colon followed by a skinny line and a fatter line. Sometimes you will also see a repeat sign that is backwards. When you see a repeat sign that is backwards, that means that when you hit the normal repeat sign, you will go all the way back to the backwards repeat sign and sing further. If there is no backwards repeat sign, you will just repeat back to the very beginning. Lastly, we have this symbol right here. It is called a tie. So a tie is the connected line that connects two notes of the same, emphasis on same, connects two notes of the same pitch. There's another line that's called a slur that we will learn later on that connects two notes of different pitches. The reason that we are connecting two notes of the same pitch instead of just calling it a half note is that most of the time there will be a bar line in between the two notes that are tied together. So again, a tie is a line that connects two notes of the same pitch. And that is everything that is on 1.2.